Okay, I do believe we're live. That's great. So, today I'm going to teach a bit on the process that is what we have going on in the possibility of a nuclear war and a few other things that are happening. And the main effect of those things is that they're caused by evil. They're caused by influences that are created within evil. And it's really hard to recognize evil, and what are you going to do about it when it's coming on you? When you're in it and a nuclear war is going to happen. You know, how do you change that? You know, it's not a changeable scenario. In your history, you have gone from many nuclear wars and many destructive scenarios. And hold on, I think I got somebody wanting to say something to me. Oh, okay, never mind. What? Yep, okay, I'm back. Yeah, all right. So anyway, don't move around, please. All right. I'll be back a little. Okay, so I'm going to teach about the Dharma and your process right now, due to your karma, due to the circumstances that you have at hand. You have a chance of a third nuclear war coming up, and you will lose 2/3 of your human population for close to 1,000 years. It won't regenerate because of mutation cycles. So the long process of being able to be a spiritual person and reincarnate will be very, very difficult. Because normally spiritual people are pure. They're clean from many impurities. But if they're caught up in a nuclear war, then the circumstances is the same for them as it is for anybody. When you try and reincarnate, you're coming back into pretty sick bodies, in a very sick atmosphere, in a very sick environment, in a very sick government, and very sick attitudes between humanity. You know, so in all means, you want to avoid this, but you're pretty much too far gone already to avoid this. So my process is that I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing, because if there's a big nuclear ha-ha, you know, it'd be good if this is on record, and you'd be able to see during my next cycle, which would be about 900 to 1,000 years from now, if there is a nuclear war, because there's no way I'll be able to establish anything over the next 1,000 years, even though I keep reincarnating in this highly devastated planet. But, you know, nevertheless, you know, this is what I do. And the process is that I provide an opportunity for you to be saved from this nuclear war, from major disasters from earthquakes, from major disasters from nature, from major disasters from accidents and diseases and early death. All those things I have the ability to alter and bring about correctly. But I don't do it through will. Yeah, I don't, because you're under the illusion that you have free will. And with that going on, there's no way I can do anything to make this a helpful scenario with you. Yeah. So In humanity, there is inhumanity. And with that, we have this particular chakra system. And this chakra system, unhealthy and healthy, is what it is that's running amok in Ukraine, what it is that's coming out of Russia, what it is that's coming out of Trump and all of his followers, what it is that's coming out of the nation of North Korea, what it is that's coming out of the nation of China, and any other cult situation are these unhealthy chakras. They're all unhealthy chakras. But the most devastating thing that happens from this is that these unhealthy chakras affect the planet. Literally. All the chakras are in the planet. Yeah? Each continent, each nation has chakras. They have a soul chakra, they have a personality chakra, just like human beings. Yeah? Because this is a major phenomenon. This reality that we have here is a divine temple. But you don't treat it as such. And for that reason, it self-destructs. And you have demons come and take it over and manifest their entire process of glamours all the way to the point of Russia and Hitler and everything. So everything is reincarnation. Imagine that you have this guy, crazy, bonkers as could be, but all you have to do is go back about 80 years, 90 years, and you'll see the same guy. You'll see the same group looking at Poland and looking at Ukraine and looking at other countries saying, we've got to take it over. And who was it that did that? They were Nazis. And this guy here is telling everybody Ukraine is filled with Nazis, as though he's a reenactment of the Hitlerian movement. And he's claiming that everybody in Ukraine is led by Hitler-like people of Nazi movement. He's just going back to his past. That's exactly where he's coming from. He's behaving exactly as Hitler did, except put it up about 10 notches. Put it up with having a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of delusions of grandeur that is piled on from previous lives and now on to this life. And he has very little support. You may think he has support because he's Russian and Russian processes are similar to his mindset, but it's not true. It is a dying process because I am healing these chakras. Yeah, these chakras that we experience, in our daily life. Yeah, these healthy chakras, which is on the very top, it's the first ray, and that's the will of God. Yeah, and the fourth ray down at the bottom, that's harmony, that's earth, that's nature. That's the incarnation of the avatar. His physical incarnation is fourth ray. It's a manifestation of the fourth ray. It is all these healthy aspects made manifest, and the attribute of our planetary logos is fourth ray. Yeah, so it's always known as a balancer, a healer, something that works problems out and transforms them, integrates them, changes everything. So it's literally the foundation of the integration of the soul with the personality. That's what the fourth ray does, and it does it by the will of God. Through the will of God, that first ray up above is connected to the will of God. Not your will, it's God's will. But your will and God's will in a healthy chakra system is the same will. It's the same will. But if you look at it in an unhealthy chakra system, you've got seventh ray down here. That means you'd be a barbaric person who'd be willing to put orders and laws and strategies and everything to take over other person's rights, giving them conflict instead of harmony. So where you would have harmony, you would have conflict, you would have war within humanity. And then the fifth ray, it's sacral center. The fifth ray just gives you hardness, gives you ability to make war, to make machines, to make guns, to make ammo, to make all those things that go explode and destroy and wipe out large masses of life. You know, that's the destruction of nature. It's very destructive, is the fifth ray. And that's in our sacral center. So basically, we by nature are hell beings who fight and kill and are jealous and envious. We'll beat up our own wife. We'll beat up our own kids. We'll kill people in insanity, in this unhealthy rage that goes on by our use of our free will. Our free will is what causes all those problems. And Satan has told you for a long, long time, you got free will, so enjoy it. That's the main thing you should do, is do as you will. That's Satan's decree. But it's not God's decree. It's not our nature. Yeah? With our nature healed, we have the ability to heal the nations. What would happen if we healed the nations? If we were to, and we don't do this through some mechanical means. We don't do this by developing some scientific formula so that we can take these energies of the chakras and bring them into balance like some kind of medicine or technology or engineering. It's not that way. It happens through God. You cannot imagine God in the machine. God as a mechanical device or as an instrument of technology or a software or even a matrix. You know, it has nothing to do with any of that. God is God, and God is a creator, and God holds everything in fashion, in its protective field, in its own mindset, in this healthy chakra arrangement. God holds us all in a perfect order, in a perfect state of consciousness and understanding for our own evolution. It's for our own evolution, because our will and God's will are one. But to do that, you have to become a saint. That's not easy. Not in this world. Yeah, you've got to struggle through the process of becoming a saint. And you don't go through the delusion of, oh, I'll jump into astrology. That'll make me look like I can do divination and I'm divine. But that's what divination means. It cuts around the ability to become divine. And it's a quasi form of science to show yourself in the art of divinity, which isn't real truth. It's a science that creates and equates the reality of the gods in a machine. And it's not. It has nothing to do with any truth whatsoever. The truth is that we have to have a lifestyle. We have to have a behavior. We have to have actions and attitudes that maintain this reality, and that heals the nations. But it requires tukus. Tukus are higher order of beings, the saints that we have to be. So somewhere in our group, somewhere amongst us, there must be reincarnated saints. And in Tibetan Buddhism, even in Christianity and other religious orders, saints have come into manifestation. Yeah? And they reincarnate. And they don't always stay in the same religion, but they do seek God. And slowly but surely they attain communicative skills, and their will becomes one with God. They become reverent. They become humble. They become understanding in relationship to what God wants done, rather than their own selfish plans and their own selfish means. It's a very difficult thing to carry out God's plans in the order in which God wants them to carry out. That requires all the virtues that are manifested in God's reality, its characteristics and its attributes. All those things we have to take in order to manifest sainthood, in order to be a saint. Yeah? In order to be a saint, you must have these chakras working in healthy order, no unhealthiness. Yeah? So trust me, there are saints out there, but most of them are asleep. Most of them are dominated by their solar plex, by their friends and their family, by their desire to be in a relationship, by their desire to date, by their desire to live a normal life, get out and drink and do whatever they want, free will, whatever they feel like they want. They want to be an actor, they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, they want to be anything. They can be anything, according to what they want. But that's not the truth. They're a tuku. And if they were to take the time to let go of all forms of relationships, attain a lifestyle to where they are alone most often. And they have to deal with their own shortcomings. They have to deal with their pessimism. They have to deal with their negativity. They have to deal with their lack of ability to be orderly in their daily life. What happens if you stand alone? Here's your chakras. If you stand alone, you'll find that alone, you by nature have a seventh ray at your sacral center. You love yourself. You're self-aware. You become self-actualized. You become self-realized. So self is very important. But selfishness leads you to having a fifth ray, which is an intellectual self that just rationalizes the bullshit of being a common person, average person, even though you're rich, even though you're a doctor. You're one out of many. Yeah? Nothing unique about you whatsoever. Everything is right up to the game plan of God and the machine. Yeah? That's your fifth ray. And there is no way you are going to enter into a relationship and have it work out, let alone a personal relationship of a loved one. Yeah? Your relationship in life is completely based on God. And that means getting to know yourself, self-realization, self-actualization, healing yourself from self-criticism, self-annihilation, self-abuse, yeah, selfishness completely in every way. That's all this unhealthiness that's over there. Yeah? And those two rays, the fifth ray and the seventh ray, are dominant. And then that fourth ray goes up into your brow. And this is a very unhealthy person. And when fourth ray goes up into a brow, you think that you're kind of like a god. You think that you have to have a mansion. You're very intelligent, you're very bright, you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you can sell people anything whatsoever. You're not an high initiate. You're a con person. Yeah? You've established your selfishness to such a degree that you find harmony in being selfish. And the more selfish you are, the more harmonic you find yourself. So you're willing to sacrifice people, places, and things. You're willing to buy really big mansions that are worth $50, $60, $70 million, totally useless. Nobody after you buy it will ever be able to use it again, and it will sit there for hundreds of years unused. And that's our system. That's where these people are creating an earth that is a waste bucket, a toilet, a piece of shit, crap. Nothing of any use to anybody is these people with these unhealthy chakras. They pile it on. They're either hoarders or they believe they should own a mansion and they have to be an actor so everybody can see them in the fame game. It's all these illusionary characteristics of the glamours. And those glamours come up all the time. They're everything we are. Our glamours are an attribute to our aspects that we are in the chakras. And when we see these chakras in the healthy side, we also have to look at the relationship of chakras that are, in the earth and in us as individuals. So let's say you incarnate with a first-ray soul, or a first-ray personality, or maybe a first-ray mind, or maybe a first-ray emotional body, or maybe a first-ray anything. Any of your vehicles could be a first ray. And that first ray has strengths and it has glamours. And let's look at those glamours, because most people in this world are self-centered and their strength is in their process of their glamours. So their strength is in physical strength and personal magnetism and self-centeredness and personal potency. The one at the center, selfish personal ambition, rulership, dictatorship, and wide control. Messiah complex in the field of politics. Selfish destiny or divine right of kings and personally exacted. Imagine all the people in politics, all the people who believe that they're the children of kings and queens, and they're going to be king and queen, or they're a prince, or they're an emperor, or they're an empress, or they're a princess, and all these different things that they are because they are glamours. They're all just glamours. They're not real. They're isolated in a state of destruction, the glamour of destruction, isolation, of aloneness, aloofness. Imagine Putin. He's in a state of isolation, and he's creating destruction for selfish destiny, a messiah complex in the field of politics. He is a ruler, a selfish personal ambition, one at the center, self-centeredness and personal potency, personal magnetism, physical strength. He thinks he's like a King Kong sitting on top of a bear. You know, that's his illusion. He presents himself like that. Superimposed will upon others and upon groups. Yeah, send those tanks in there, kill every living civilian that you can find. That is the expression of that ray. Yeah? So imagine, all the people on Earth have these rays, and only a few have these rays in their soul and personality. And when they do, especially on the soul level, they are oriented like Putin. They're oriented like Trump. They're oriented like all the different people that take on those major roles, even actors, even people who rob banks, even people who are running police chief and go on down to the sergeants who run their crew, run their situation. People who are in charge are dictators in their own right, and quite often they have either a first-rate personality or a first-rate soul. Now, this makes for a very bad planet. Very bad planet. But yet, look around. This is our planet. This is it. This is all we got. All we got. And that's just one ray. And that's the one you look up to. That's your king. That's your president. That's your politician. That's your pope. That's your Dalai Lama. Yeah, all these people have those first-rate qualities. Yeah. And imagine, there's all these people that also have second ray in their being. And they could have a second ray personality, they could have a second ray soul, they could, any of their vehicles could be second ray. But the chances of the fact that they're not spiritual and they're not under the alignment of becoming a saint, those rays become glamours. And those glamours manifest into love of being loved. What girl out there isn't looking for a husband? What guy out there isn't looking for a girl? What gay guy isn't looking for a gay guy? What gay girl isn't looking for a gay girl? They're all love of being loved. And they do this by popularity. Yeah? How much more popular are you? The chances are you're going to be loved. Personal wisdom. Yeah, the more you can show personal wisdom, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm wise, I know shit. I could be the person who walks you through your life as a guide, you know, a spiritual companion, a spiritual understanding person, as a counselor in your life. You know, these are all people who mean well, but they're totally incompetent. And they lack everything that it takes to lead people into the light. Into the light. They're leading people into glamours. The same glamour is too complete an understanding which negates right action. Imagine, here we are, Christ comes into the world, or we need to choose whether or not we can become saints, and that the whole process has been described totally wrong, and that we reincarnate, which gives us more opportunity than we can ever imagine. And if we just start now and always, we will be saints forever. And there's no way I'm not becoming that. And we would heal the earth. We would heal the nations. We would stop Putin. We would end all wars. All those things would happen. Yeah, but it only happens because we stop the glamours. If we don't, we get these delusions of glamour. We get a messiah complex in people who believe that their religion or their world religion, whether it be the Jews or the Dalai Lama or the Christian Catholics or anybody, Muslims, all those are messiah complexes. Yeah? glamour of fear based on undue sensitivity. Yeah, all those people who are following QAnon and think that this is going on and that's going on, they have no way of discerning, discriminating, so they have undue fear based on undue sensitivity and self-sacrifice. How many of those people are committing suicide? How many people are cutting themselves? How many people are going into the wrong relationship because they self-sacrifice themselves? How many people have selfish unselfishness? How many people commit to the reality of never wanting to change and put tattoos on because there are selfish unselfishness? They're doing this because they're in a peer group. They're doing this because others are doing this. They're following this process. Self-satisfaction. You put one tattoo on, you have to go get another one. You have to go get another one. You have to do your back. You have to do your front. Selfish service. The person who's doing the tattoo, the person who's leading you to the tattoo, they're all under this glamour, all those glamours. Yeah. So let's take a look at the next one. Yeah. These are all glamours. These are all attributes and glamours. Yeah. So what happens if we have a glamour that moves into the third ray? Yeah, and we see these rays, and they're all in those chakras. Yeah, the chakras are in our being. Every ray, we have 7 rays, we have 7 chakras. They are all in our beings. In that third ray, and every single person out there has all those rays in their being. So this third ray is in your being. Yeah, it may not be a major attribute of your soul. It may not be a major attribute of your personality or your mind or your emotions or your physical body, but it's in your being. So when you come across another person who has it in their being and they're misusing it, they could take advantage of you. Yeah, this is people who make you busy, get you into plots and ideas and circumstances and situations that are just going to drain you dry. And they're under the illusion that their plan is the greatest plan for not only the individual, but the group. But yet it's never for the group. It's always for that individual. Yeah? And the glamour of active scheming. Now, all that leads up to all of this. Scheming is the main focus. Glamour of creative work without true motive. That's because it's active scheming. Glamour of good intentions, which are basically selfish. Yeah, I'll sell you a car. Yeah, and the person is so ignorant and stupid, they know nothing about the car, so they're going to sell you a bad car, and they're going to use their ignorance of saying, well, I never owned a car like that. I don't really know that car that very well, but I'll sell it to you because you want that car. Our job is to be in service, to learn everything about anything that we're going to help another person with. And that way we can help them make a better decision and not for our own self, like sell that car because we're going to make the best commission on it. The glamour of self-importance from the standpoint of knowing, of efficiency. Yeah, this is in everything, in jobs and organizations and circumstances of your own ego, thinking that you can get it better done than anybody else. Don't trust you, I'll do it. No, don't do it, I'll do it, kind of thing. Glamour of devious and continuous manipulation. This whole thing, we all have this. You get married, imagine how much of this shit's going to come up. You get into a dating situation, how much of this is going to come up. You get into a business situation and you want to work for Tesla or you want to work for some place, but then you say, I would like to bring a union in so that I have rights and I have the ability to speak my rights about my job, and I'd like my conditions better. And who do I speak to for that? Nobody. Yeah, so I would like a union. Well, that would be the positive attributes to the third ray rather than this negative attribute, because where you're in this world, your third ray is going to make you feel guilty about choosing to have a union, choosing to be socialist more, choosing to take care of people outside your own situation, choosing to be caring and understanding, not be scheming, not looking out for yourself, not trying to get your own paycheck higher than the other person next to you, and never tell them how much you get paid because it's a lot more than they do. And you schemed in order to get that. But you're not going to tell them. And then there's the fourth ray. every single person has these rays in their vehicles. Every single person. So when we get married, when we get a relationship, when we get into a job, when we go anywhere into anything, we are going to be affected by these glamours. And this glamour is what we think is going to bring harmony, aiming for personal comfort and satisfaction. Oh, I'm going to buy a car. Oh, I'm going to get high. Oh, I'm going to get drunk. Oh, I'm going to eat something. Oh, I love those flowers. Oh, it's going to grow just the way I'm thinking, because everything in this glamour has to do with your expectations. And those expectations are delusionary. There is no control over harmony. Shit happens. And that's the way it works. Yeah? It's not that everything has to stay perfectly like a flower and aim personal comfort and personal satisfaction. That's a starting base of where we're at in the illusion of that glamour. But when that gets screwed up, when we're not harmonious, we go to war with whatever it is that's not allowing that to happen. We go to war with whatever it is that isn't aiming for our personal comfort. We go to war if we're not maintaining our satisfaction. Yeah? We go to war through conflict with the objective of imposing righteousness and peace under delusions that you just saw in the other rays. Where people are under delusions of religion or under delusions of politics. All those rays are what's causing these problems. All of those problems we have are caused by these rays. Makes you think, wow, God, that's a problem. You're the one causing this problem. You're all the rays. That's not true. God is the rays, but his Son is the glory. His Son is the example of those rays in all the strengths. The physical characteristics, the physical attributes, every single one of the positive characteristics in all the rays are expressed out of the Son of God. That's how all your curses are eliminated. Not so much by you becoming a saint. You become a saint by becoming a disciple to the Son of God. Not by going off into a cave and thinking, oh, worship myself, and that'll do it. And that's not how it works. Yeah. So imagine you got that fourth ray, now you're going to go into the fifth ray. And the fifth ray in its glamours is the glamour of materiality and overemphasis of form. Glamour of intellect, glamour of definition, assurance based on narrow point of view. Imagine you're Elon Musk, you're a really smart guy, and you really earn a lot of money, and you really do have an ambitious ideology of what you're going to do. And you think, well, I've got all the other rays too. And I'm afraid the earth is going to be destroyed. And I'm afraid I'm seeing this with the second ray aspect of my own being. And I'm very much afraid. I'm afraid that we're going to have no utopia. I'm afraid that, I have to see this as a destructive scenario. So I have to help everybody get off this planet. Find a way off using my strong fifth ray soul. Yeah? And this is where Elon Musk is at. He's highly materialistic, overemphasis of form and super intellect, knowledge and definition, glamour of assurance based on a narrow point of view. Yeah, I'm going to send millions of people to Mars, and we're going to colonize. Yeah, colonize. Holy shit, that was back in the 1400s. We do not colonize. We stopped that. Back in the 1800s, we stopped colonization. If we do any colonization, we'll create a mass galactical war. Fighting over minerals, fighting over territory. That'll happen even on the moon. All this is going to end up because we did not heal our chakras. And this is something we have to do. We can't allow this to come about. It's going to happen. We're going to send ships. We do already send ships to Mars. And we're going to send people to Mars, and they're going to be so sick and devastated and weak, unable to get up and stand to do the work that they're required to do the day after they arrive. Now, they're going to be in sick bay for the 6 months that they're there and finally get healthy enough to fly back and come back in an incredibly sick vehicle of their physical body. Their emotions will be completely distraught, PTSD beyond belief. There are enormous psychic delusions and illusions and processes that will go on due to the glamours that will build up inside those people because they're not on Earth. We receive our rays from Earth. If we go to Mars, we lose them. Yeah? And you have no idea what I'm talking about. And yet you're willing to go even further and lose your rays. Yeah. So this takes you assurance based on a neuro point of view. Glamour, form which hides reality. Form which hides reality. The reality is you go to Mars, it takes a year and a half. Everybody who's been in space for a year and a half without any gravity cannot walk at all, and their limbs blow up, and they have all kinds of illnesses and sicknesses, and their circulation is no longer functioning, and they cannot do the things that they would normally do for a long period of time. Every single person on board that ship is a human being. No one's superhuman. No one has any special organization set up to make them safe and healthy and get there safely. Nobody. Elon Musk is not considering an anti-gravitational field relationship of a spiraling ship that goes through space. He's not considering it because he has a narrow point of view. Just get you there, you'll be fine. A lot of people will die. Oops. Big mistake. Yeah, and that's how it works. Glamour of organization, organizing millions of people to think they're going to go to Mars. The glamour of the outer, which hides the inner. The outer, yeah, gives us the idea that we can go to Mars, yeah, and we can terraform that sucker. Yeah, right. Try that one. Now, the sixth ray is one of the biggest glamour rays that we've got, and all of us have these rays, every single one of us. This is the ray of devotion, adherence to forms and persons, idealism, loyalty and creeds, emotional response, sentimentality. All of those things are the process of the lower nature inside of humanity. The narrow vision, again, fanaticism, sentimentality, all those things in that particular ray, that particular glamour, that group of glamours, which is in the sixth ray, leads us down a road of delusionary devotion, like, let's go to Mars. Yeah, it leads down a road of adherence to forms and persons. Elon Musk, he's the greatest genius. He's got to be the Messiah. Oh, he's flying to Mars and he's driving all over the Earth and everything. He's got to get us there. We trust him. Yay. And then the glamour of idealism. Yeah, it's an ideal. That's our ideal. Elon Musk going to take us to Mars. Yeah, really? Do we need to go to Mars? Glamour of loyalties and of creeds, yeah, because we are doing this devotion, adherence to forms, idealism, and loyalties with an emotional response. We all love Elon Musk. Glamour of sentimentality, interference with God's plan, interference with the coming of Christ. And the lower pairs of opposites. These are ideologies and platforms that have not even externalized yet due to this process. World saviors and teachers and the narrow vision and a glamour of fanaticism. This is all based around here. Elon Musk thinks he's a world savior. He's sending everybody to Mars. You don't think he has in himself the delusion of glamour of being a world savior with a narrow vision and fanaticism of leading everybody on board his rocket ships and lead them to Mars and start a whole new race? I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. Yeah. And then we have the relationship of the seventh ray. Same glamours, but it's the glamours of magical work, the relation of opposites, subterranean powers, that which brings things together, the physical body, mysterious in the secret, sex magic, and emerging manifested forces. These are glamours that are held in Satanism, in magic, in ceremonies, yeah, in subterranean powers, in magical work. This is stuff you don't even think about. You don't even consider it is effective. But Aleister Crowley existed, yeah. All these, demonic forces and all these teachers and everything that have been on this earth and claimed all the things that they have done, and the false religions that we have today, and Russia and communism and everything that we have today is all based on the unhealthiness of these chakras. Yeah. So the key is bringing these chakras into healthiness, bringing ourselves into a healthy state. Yeah. So my incarnation is the purpose of that reality. My incarnation brings about the reality of these 7 rays, that are here, in the healthy state. You can see them in the healthy state. But actually, as a physically incarnate, I radiate them. So every single thing on the first ray, I radiate the first ray. So when I'm radiating the first ray, that process is that I express the strength and will, the dynamic power, the power of synthesis, the strength and sense of purpose, power of beneficent destruction, strong one-pointed focus, power to preserve values, power to lead, power to direct, power to govern, fearlessness, power to initiate, detachment. These are all chakras and rays that are inside of every living human being when the characteristics and glamours are gone. And we have strength and characteristics that come from our virtues. Yeah. So God's will, strength, God's dynamic power, God's power of synthesis, God's strong sense of purpose, God's power of beneficent destruction. In other words, change and see change made manifest. Yeah. Detachment, a power to detach. Strength and courage, power to liberate, keen understanding of principles and priorities. So just to make it clear, there is nobody but Jesus on earth that has this ability. And Jesus usually only lives about 185 years or 100 years, something like that. And I'm 70 years right now, so, and turning 72. So your time limit is really short. And the sequence of my time is reincarnation, so is yours. So my relationship would be I would return and I would come back, and that would probably be around the year 2055. Yeah. So this is me in my incarnation in this life. Yeah. And let's take in just a little bit of the process of what that means, just because you're stuck with everybody else but me. Everybody else but me. Yeah. So, and I can't do anything about it. Yeah. Because the chakras in every single person interrupt the chakras of the Lord. They interrupt. That's what their glamours are. There are 7 chakras in people. Every single one of them is a glamour. Yeah, and none of them are in complementary relationship to the Lord. None of them. They are in the unhealthy state, which means if the Lord comes in contact with anybody, that changes the Lord's attributes to manifest into the world. Doesn't change the Lord or anything, but it changes the ongoing attributes that goes into the world. So it has extreme negative outcome, which you will witness, and you've all witnessed it for hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, but the key thing is to try and understand that The process of the Lord is only the process of the Lord. There is not another living being, whether they're tukus or whether or not they're reincarnate Buddhas, and they're recognized, and lamas come along and they recognize and all of that. But the truth is, it comes down to just one particular incarnation. And then there are many emanations, and we do not have any understanding about those emanations. So people are in a world to where the Lord is here, but the Lord's not here. Yeah. So here I am. I'm sitting. I'm talking to you, but I'm not. Yeah. What you're looking at is your identity, your recognition, your ability to see what you're seeing and hear what you're hearing and all of that. But it doesn't stop the war tomorrow. Yeah. It won't end nuclear holocaust because your chakras are unhealthy, and they remain unhealthy. Anytime I teach, there will be a disruption in the process of my teaching. It's impossible for it not to happen. So the teaching is 1/1,000,000th the power of what it would normally be. Yeah. So, and that's where we're at right now. The fifth ray is in the sacral center. It completely, and that's not my fifth ray, it is humanity's fifth ray. And they're not healthy. Yeah. So there is a extreme chance of disorientation due to elemental desire body needs. Yeah. And all these chakras and all these different rays that are down there, every single one of them are like knee-jerk reactions in a human being. And they have all 7 chakras, all 7 rays, and none of them are healthy. Yeah. So imagine I'm trying to teach, and I'm trying to bring about a change in this world. But there's no teaching, and there's no change, mainly because the process is constantly in a state of conflict. There's no complementation of previous study and previous understanding and all of that. Because I'm teaching the rays and I'm teaching the chakras, but do you spend 3 to 4 hours a day studying those rays and chakras? So when I get on here, and then you're able to better understand that. Or where is your time spent? Because I've been here 70 years. Yeah. Yeah. When I was 9 years old, this is what happened to me.
Going back to the aliens, what was your family's heritage, Native American?
Blackfoot and Cherokee. My dad was Blackfoot. My mom was half Cherokee.
So there were a lot of things going on when you were young that were...
Yeah. We weren't allowed to say we were Indian. Never mentioned being Indian. Because back then, that was a bad thing to be. No one liked you. We're home. And these people come to the door, and they said, "Is my mother there?" And I said, "Yeah, your father, he's in the back room. Come on in. We weren't allowed to let people in the house. I just told them, "Come on in." He said, "We're here to talk to you about your brother." And about that time, my folks come out in the living room and ran me up the hall, the other two kids back. And the conversation I heard was that they're here to take him back to Tibet. To be educated. And my dad got upset about that. I said, "What's wrong with the education here? Why would you want to go to Tibet?" Because he's a chosen one, is the way they were putting it. And they were serious about taking him with them. And my folks, they just got fed up with it and ran them off. I didn't hear nothing else about that till a year later when they got a letter. And the letter stated that they're sorry that Buddha missed his opportunity to do this, and they'll check back in years, in the future. And as far as I know, they might have and might not have.
You ever see the film Little Buddha?
Yeah.
Was that kind of like?
Yeah. It was like that. That's when I first started thinking about this again, is when I seen that. And I thought, well, that's my brother. And it can't be because the time periods are all wrong in this. And I'm thinking, maybe that could have been him up there. Maybe it should have been.
So when they came and they were talking to your folks, you were made to go away. And
Yeah.
he was
I kept sneaking up the hall so I could hear it go from one door to the next, trying to hear what was going on. But they really shook my dad up. He got really upset, and my mom, she was basically laughing. She said, this can't be real, it's candid camera, some stunt going on, her brother put him up to it and stuff like that. Well, she checked, and as far as she knew, them people didn't exist to anybody in my family but Ronnie. He wanted to know who they were and what they wanted, and come down the hallway into the living room. He just went out the back door in the backyard and was looking through the sliding glass doors and trying to see what was going on. But no, there was no discussion. Anybody, none of my relatives, nobody. It was never brought up again, until that letter. And I think my sister may have it, because I know my mom kept it.
So it was like a letter from the Tibetan.
My mom and dad called him Buddha, Little Buddha. And that went on for several years. And then he opened a clinic or something in Oregon. And they called him the Messiah. He's opened up a clinic up in Oregon. He's the Messiah. And it was just a private joke between them two. I never knew what was going on, what they were talking about. But it's what these people, the Tibetans, had said to him while they were there. He's chosen for this, and he's supposed to do this and that. They were determined to get the point across to my folks that this is supposed to be. This has to be. And they weren't taking no for an answer, and there were these two old people in my living room arguing with my folks about taking my brother. And when they left, you could just tell they were looking for him, As far as I thought they were going to just go ahead and take him. But they really shook my dad up. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't know Tibet or Dalai Lama or none of that stuff. None of us did. So it was, and I kept that story to myself till about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Discussed it with him when we first started talking again. I'd asked him, I said, do you remember that? He says, oh yeah, I remember, but nobody else does. And I don't know if he thought it was a story that my mom had made up, or if it actually happened, because he was really young at the time. And before my dad died, he got in touch with him. He knew my dad was dying. Hadn't been in touch with him for years. But he just called and said, I know Dad's dying, yada, yada. Because he's suffering strokes, daily strokes, and he had cancer, and he was terminally ill. And everybody tried to find Buddha, to let him know. And I've talked to everybody, and they said, no, we never got in touch with him. How would he know what was going on? He knew the phone number, he knew the address, and what hospital he'd been in. He knew all three of them. I didn't even know them,
when you were younger, were there things that you remember about
Him
how
being different?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was always different. He was always thinking. You know, he showed his intelligence way early when he was like 12, 13 years old. He was able to do things that other people couldn't do. But if you asked him for a hammer or a screwdriver, he wouldn't know the difference between them. But you could talk about a constellation in the sky, and he'd know what you were talking about. You know, no one knew how he knew what he knew. You know, that was strange. And he wanted a sitar. He wanted to learn how to play sitar. I just learned when the Beatles come out what a sitar was, you know, and he wanted one of them, wanted to learn how to play it. He's always been intelligent. He's always been thinking ahead.
And that empathy, thinking about other people?
Yeah. He always wanted to help people. You know, I think that's how he got hooked up with these people, the Tibetans that came, because he just, you know, he talked to anybody. He was happy, he was go-lucky, and if you seemed interesting, he'd go talk to you. You know, find out, you know, what you are or whatever. If he'd have gone that way into the Indian nations, he'd probably be the greatest chief ever. You know, come to visit me in Las Vegas once and tried to hook him up with a job, but he wanted to go grow grass, not smoking grass, but the kind you eat. That
Wheatgrass?
Yeah. He'd crush it up, put it in little shot glass deals, and sell it to the health food stores. He was making a fortune. You know, and I said, "You're growing grass?" He says, "Yeah, try it." And it became a big thing in Las Vegas for a while. Everybody got health conscious. But he started that. I think he helped start the first, I think it was a holistic restaurant where they just served sandwiches on everything organic. And back then, back in the 70s, organic, you know, didn't exist. No, I ain't eating that, you know. Got to have the chemicals. That's when I learned the word holistic. That's the thing he does there in Kathmandu. He feeds the people. He feeds them, clothes them, houses them. He just amazes me. No matter what he does, it's gonna turn out right, and something good's gonna come out of it. He likes to help people. He cares about people, and he's a no bullshit guy. You know what he says, he means, and says this is gonna happen. It happened, and I said he just, when he talks, you listen. You want to hear more. You want to hear what he has to say. And he's always been that way. Always held a conversation in a group of people. Everybody would eventually be around him. What's going on? His policy, do no harm. We grew up in a violent family. You know, and there was always someone getting hurt or someone getting beat up or, you know, crap like that. But he back then he'd say, you know, why do we have to fight? You know, there's no reason to fight. I don't think he's been in maybe 2 fights in his whole life. But he, what was it? When I went to Vietnam, he kept telling me, why don't you go to Canada like everybody else? I don't want to. You know, Vietnam wasn't even a thing when I joined the service. It became a thing while I was in boot camp. That's when I learned about Vietnam. And by the time I got out of boot camp, he knew everything there was about Vietnam, about all the coups that's gone on there, and who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. And he flat told me, he says, you know, you're over there fighting a war against people that are defending their country. We're the invader. You know, and he put that out there, and it was a whole different concept. People weren't ready for that. And he had a couple rallies. Cesar Chavez spoke about him at one of his rallies. And I couldn't believe, here this guy from Mexico comes here trying to start a union for the Mexican laborers and get them decent pay, and he's talking about Buddha. You know, how he's seen through what he's done, what could be done. You know, they did a lot of testing in Davis University, and they tested a lot of monkeys, and he just couldn't see that happening. He always said, you know, one of these days I'm gonna let them monkeys out. Well, they got loose, but he'd be an advocate for something like that, for animals. Thanksgiving one year, we were having Thanksgiving dinner, and this big semi-truck come down our street, and no truck's supposed to be on that street. And Buddha went running out there and stopped the guy. You know, here's a little guy stopping his big 16-wheeler, and the guy says, what do you want? He says, you're not home having Thanksgiving dinner with your family? He said, no, gotta work. He said, wait here. He went inside, got a plate, and took it back out there and sat in the truck and ate with him. You know, that's the kind of character he was back there. That's a kid doing that. You know, and this guy was a stranger.
So you
Okay, so looks like you lost a whole lot of teaching there. I don't repeat myself. So I'll just say that when I incarnate, and I am always the incarnation of the same person, When I incarnated as Jesus, I got to be known as Jesus. When I incarnated as Krishna, I got to be known as Krishna, and many other incarnations. So during this life, I had many visions and dreams that went on from 2 years old of me being Jesus. My entire life, my childhood, my teenage years, and my adult years, and even dying on the cross and the resurrection. That was all a part of my life dreams for from 2 years old to 7 years old. So it was a lot that went on, and I knew the life of Jesus beyond anybody, you know. So it was relived in myself on a nightly scenario, and that was pretty uncomfortable. And then so by the time I get to 9, these Tibetans show up, and as I show you these healthy chakras, I'm the one born in that. And I was born as an enlightened being. I was born as a master. I was born able to understand physics, quantum physics, engineering, medicine, all the different things that you have in your chakras, and your value of your characteristics in your chakras are these very high attributes and characteristics of understanding and clarity and higher mind and intuition. And all those things I'm born with, all those things I have from life after life, and I put them into effect the moment I'm breathing, the moment I'm alive. Yeah, so ever since my incarnation started, I began studying, I began developing, I began researching, I began creating this world that we're in today, making the phones, the computers, the electric cars, the solar. Everything you see in this world, I personally created when I was a child, as a child. And then I took over the NASA and space program between the time of 9 and 19 or 18, and I landed us on the moon and helped to establish the space station program that we would have more peace rather than nuclear war. And that happened. It worked. Yeah. So the effect of my work is dramatic, and it's nowhere near done. But my problem is that no one knows I'm here, and I could take you 5,000 years in advance quickly, about 20 years faster every year, if I was given a job and people knew who I was, and I was allowed to be the engineer, the physicist, the doctor, the lawyer, the doctor of all doctors on everything, yeah, and not a dictator of any kind, yeah, but a person who would tell you the truth and walk you through how to get to the next stage. Yeah, everything from anti-gravity flight to transcendental, everything. Yeah, all of our characteristics and abilities, science and technologies are interconnected, and so I move us that way. I move us through the sciences that I've developed. But my main thing is that I radiate and I heal. So I have to carry on an activity of not just creating the electric car, creating the space program, creating all the medicine and technologies, and doing what I've done in the background, which I do actively. I don't do it just sitting and dreaming or something. I do it by studying. I do it by coming up with formulas and understanding and putting those things together, and then research it and investigate it and verify whether or not those are workable situations. Just like hypothesis to theory, everything that is required, I do. Yeah, so I'm 70 years old, and every single day I do the work of most physicists and scientists of a week's worth of work on 1 day of work. Yeah. So imagine what it would be like if somebody gave me a call, if I introduced the new technological advancement of the hydrogen fuel cell and its relationship to fusion, and how to make a little battery this big that will charge your entire house and make a car run for over 2,000 years. You know, that's my ability. That's what I do. Yeah, and I don't invent these things. I tell you the truth. I lead you up the ladder to these things so that you can investigate and research and find out these truths are true. And then you unveil those truths. and I bring the fifth ray up to your brow, and I get the fifth ray out of your sacral center that veils me from being the one who is giving you these truths. And the last thing any of you want is to hear these truths come out of me and have me be the one that is bringing about all these new world realities and technologies, advancements, and heal you from the cults that you're in and the religions of satanic values that are just like magic manifesting into your life and destroying you, and as creating Hollywood and creating the delusionary sciences and the delusionary quasi-spiritual realities of people in voodoo and people in many different levels of what they believe to be spiritual and healing. All is bullshit. All is satanic. And without me, you're not going to figure any of this shit out. So you're going to have to give me a call one day. You're going to have to attend my darshans. You're going to have to attend my classes, because you're not going to get it from someone else. And Elon Musk is going to lead you to Mars, and I'm going to lead you away from Mars. So there's a big chasm of reality here, and we need to get on board with the one that is called God, and align to the reality of that truth. So in 1993, after I had worked out Vietnam, because I was drafted into Vietnam. I was drafted in 1969. I served until late 1973. I served in both the Navy and the Marine Corps as a hospital corpsman. I was trained in all different levels of medicine, and I advanced medicine on levels you could never imagine. Just by me being there, by me going to the library, by me being the assistant to many doctors and in operating rooms and on all levels of medicine, as a nurse, as a practitioner, as an assistant doctor, all those levels I was able to participate in because I was a hospital corpsman, and they were all available to me. And it quickened my ability to increase new scientific realms of technology in the area of science. So I did that. But I also ended the war of Vietnam, and I also ousted the president at the time. So those are big things that I pulled off. And I ended our relationship of not going into further space program, where we would then move into the scientific relationship of an international space station. I couldn't get them to go back to the moon. I couldn't get financing and processes to move forward because my time and energy had to be moved away from the material side of things and into a spiritual side of things to help protect you in another realm that you have problems in the occult and the glamours of delusions of Messiah complex, of the Dalai Lama and Pope and many others. So this is what I did. In 1993, I did this, and I did this till, I believe, about 2006. Oop, not that one. There you go. This is Swami Dharma Jyoti. He's the disciple to the Karmapa, and he holds all the sacred objects of the Karmapa at Swayambhu Temple, the library. And Karmapa had died, and I went to this monastery, this Swayambhu Temple, met with Swami Dharma Jyoti.
To the early years, what was your family's heritage, Native American heritage?
So I continued year after year going from one process to the next, helping to facilitate all the tukus that are saints in the world. And so there are a lot. There's a lot from all different levels and all kinds, and every single one of them is my disciple. So this is Gautama Buddha, and where I went to his place in Sri Lanka, where the tooth is brought out every year in a ceremony, and this is where the tooth sits in this temple. And I sat right in front of it, and for about 5 hours, and I sat at a tree of enlightenment right here for about 7 or 8 hours and meditated and did puja. And this is what I do. I transmit, I radiate, I receive, and I transmit. And this is on the spiritual level how I work, that I recapitulate my incarnation from previous incarnations as being the founder of God's incarnation on earth. So I established that. Sri Lanka is one of the major points that takes place. Previous incarnations have gone to Srinagar and remained in Srinagar for years at a time in order to manifest this energy. And so at the end of this, I then went to Satya Sai Baba and grabbed his foot and exorcised him for the pedophilia that he was doing, and I ended his life about 8 years later in a process of him dying of a heart attack. In 1992, I came here to the island of Maui where the Karmapa established the first stupa and created the first stupa for all of America and created the throne seat for the coming of Buddha Maitreya to be in the regency of Hawaii. So Hawaii is the throne seat for Maitreya, according to Tibetan Buddhism, Karmapa and Kalu Rinpoche. So I went back and established this and did all my pujas during a 90-day war that, you remember the 90-day war in Kuwait. I meditated for all night long for 90 days and ended that war on the 90th day. It was a 90-day war because it only lasted 90 days, and I ended it because I did these ceremonies and everything. So I do end wars. Yeah, and people don't end wars. I end wars. And it takes a lot. I have to meditate a lot. I have to do a lot. I am highly focused on what I do. So by 1993, I'm in Nepal and I'm meeting Logan Tuku and Shamar Rinpoche. And this is my meeting with Shamar Rinpoche.
So when you were your temple, that is manifesting inside of here and everywhere.
I see.
Including plants, including animals.
I see. Great. Very good. So good.
And the sky vajra, that protects. It sends out the emanations of your light. When you use it, the sky vajra, it's like this. You feel like using it to maneuver and to hold it in this one. This one, you feel like playing with it. Move it from hand to hand. So the sky vajra protects you by radiating your light out. Where this one draws all the up into the world.
That time, I never heard of this type of instruction. Ever heard. That time when you brought here, I just thought
Yes.
this
How this works, why it works like this. So that my kind of teaching, my kind of teaching is synthesizes very much all the Buddhist teachings and puts it into a form to where every Lama can take on the same kind of emanations that the Rinpoche can take on. When we go into our emanations, many emanations come into us when we begin a puja. We collect. We begin collecting our emanations. And the same quality in a Lama is there too. It's just very hard for them to receive back their emanations. So when we use this type of work, it quickens the quality of the Lama to go much further up as a representative like Rinpoche. Because Rinpoche has dharma is the only thing that happens. One is moved, and one cannot move outside of it. Where a lesser Lama has choice. But Rinpoche, or greater being, has no choice. Their choice is with dharma. And so in this case, it helps to bring about that very quickly. In all the temples, everywhere that one teaches, any of our temples, any of the this particular Gamba or any of them, wherever puja goes on, that kind of communication begins going into the temples. So if I teach in Shambhala in the pyramid, then when they go back and do what they do in their Gampa, the Gampa begins activating in the way that I'm expressing it in the pyramid. Where right now it's not quite activated. All the elements and all the deities that we can bring together need to be activated, and then we're protected. And the teachings are further. Right?
That is absolutely.
So protection is my job, but it's a very busy job. I know everybody else has got, the responsibility of normal things, but I don't. I do not have responsibility of normal things. I have the responsibility of every single living soul on this planet, making sure that they become souls and that they're not wasted into a curse that they're already in. They're in a curse, life is being wasted, and you're being wiped away. And it happens over and over and over and over and over again. You can experience from World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and now this. And without me, you haven't got a chance. There's nothing you could do about any of this. You can try your politics. It all is just God in the machine. Everything is a orchestrated plan of defense against war. And when will it happen again? And is there going to be a nuclear attack? And all of a sudden, we're in a great big nuclear war. Those are fears that are based in the heart of the second ray being that is overly sensitive and picking up all of the activities that can happen in the glamours inside of humanity when they're expressed wrongly. And that's where we're at today. We have Trump, we have Putin, we have Republicans who have gone crazy. We have people in wheelchairs that think that they're Republican politicians, and they're beating trees thinking that that's a good idea. And they're so deluded in their glamours that they're hoping that people will follow them. And it's every single one of the symptoms that I pointed out. And the only thing that's going to heal that is Jesus the Christ. Not Jesus the Christ in a church. Not Jesus the Christ, in your house with a candle and a cross on you. Not that way. It doesn't work that way. I am constantly, actively working to please the energies of God, to bring about a greater and greater harmony and protect you more and more without your knowledge of the work that I'm doing. Yeah? But once you become aware of the fact that I am incarnated and that you're able to take that fifth ray that veils your lack of ability to sense, to understand, to be spiritually connected to me, rather than all the demons and all the warlocks and all the fantasies and delusions and illusions that you have going on in your friends and your family and your lovers. Yeah? All of that is totally taking you away from God. And I know that sounds like, are you kidding? That seems to me to be what God provided, and it's not. You're rationalizing this situation, and you cannot even deal with why Ukraine is the way it is and how we got there. It's obvious. Trump put us there. Yeah. It's obvious. We had many opportunities through many presidents to be more aware of Ukraine, more aware of Russia, more aware of what their situation is and how to break it down further and further and help them become more democratic. But we didn't. We left it alone as though that's what was necessary. And it isn't. NATO is what's necessary. Stabilizing the world is what's necessary, and slowing down the autocracy, the relationship that comes from that. So let's take a look at this one thing. This is the history of our planet. And this is our political regimes.
So you see that?
And you can see autocracy. Big time. Imagine that's a crown,
Imagine
a bunch
that's
of
a crown,
crowns.
a bunch of crowns.
Yeah, that's all that is
That's
crowns.
all that is
And
crowns.
people
And
are
people are
subservient.
subservient.
Yeah. And this comes to
And
America.
this comes to America.
This is what we are,
This is what
are
we
pushing
are-
against.
are
right?
pushing
So we
against,
bring slaves,
right? So
which
we
comes
bring
from
slaves, which comes
autocracy.
from autocracy.
And all of our process in
All of our
America
process in
is based on
America
the fact
is
that
based
we
on the
initially
fact
came
that
from
we initially came
autocracy.
from autocracy.
Yeah. And we're going
Yeah.
from
We're
autocracy
going
to
from
democracy.
to democracy.
And everybody who came to
And everybody
America
who came
is
to
from
America
all around the
is
world
from all
seeking
around the world seeking
democracy.
democracy.
And they're coming from
And they're coming
autocracy.
from autocracy.
So you'll see
So
that
you'll see
lot-
that
population
lot-
changes dramatically.
Population changes dramatically.
And the number of people
And the
in
number of people
autocracy.
in
And
autocracy.
it grows dramatically,
It grows
in
dramatically
democracy.
in democracy.
Simultaneously. One
Simultaneously.
cannot live at the same
One
time.
cannot live at the same time.
So there comes a point
So
where
there
they
comes a
literally
point where
cross
they
over.
Literally cross over.
Bam.
Bam.
And look how far down democracy
Look how far
is.
down democracy is.
And when it gets to the
And when it
1900s,
gets to the 1900s,
the number of people in the
the
United
number of
States
people in the
grows
United
dramatically.
States grows dramatically.
Immigration grows
Immigration
dramatically.
grows dramatically.
Bam.
Bam.
Went up 1 million just in a couple of years.
Just in a couple of years.
Look how low autocracy is
How
now.
low autocracy is now.
1922.
1922.
Now all the kings and queens
Now
want
all
to
the
get back
kings and
into
queens
power.
want to get back into power.
You see, autocracy grew
See,
really quick
autocracy
and
grew really
democracy
quick
went
and
down
Democracy went down
because there were wars.
because there were
A
wars.
world war.
A world war.
Autocracy against democracy.
Autocracy against democracy.
So now we're coming out of these
So now
wars.
we're coming out of these wars.
By 1951,
By 1951,
our population goes up
population
dramatically.
goes up dramatically.
The wars are ending.
The wars are ending.
Autocracy still exists,
Autocracy still exists,
but it is
but it
slowly
is
but surely dwindling.
slowly but surely dwindling.
Democracy is growing.
Democracy is growing.
It's entering Europe.
It's entering Europe.
This is Mao period.
This is
Mao
Mao
Zedong.
period. Mao Zedong.
A lot of people went
A lot of
communist.
people went
A lot of
communist.
people went
A lot of
socialist.
people went socialist.
They dropped out of democracy.
Dropped out of democracy.
They didn't know that they were
They
being
didn't know
forced
that
into
they were being forced
autocracy,
into
thinking that it was
autocracy,
socialism
thinking that it was
and
socialism
communism, but it was really
communism, but it
autocracy.
was really autocracy.
And then the 90s come.
And then the 90s come.
Something really dramatic starts
Something really
happening.
dramatic starts happening.
Democracy takes over.
Democracy takes over.
1990.
1990.
This is the establishing of the church. Externalization. Enthronements. Dropping kings like flies. Dictators. So let me give you some definition. Autocracy is a system of government in which absolute power over the state is concentrated in the hands of one person. Imagine Trump or Putin, whose decisions are subject neither to external legal restraints or to regularized mechanisms of popular control. This is the direction that Trump believes he was actually sitting in. He could shoot someone, no one could do anything about it. He could overthrow an election, no one could do anything about it. He really thought that was real. He really did. That's because he, in himself, is an autocracy. To colonize is a country or citizens that is sent as a group of settlers to a place and establish political control over it, like Elon Musk going to Mars, or ourselves going from Europe, UK, or Denmark, or some small nation where we choose because we are an autocracy, we have a king, we have a queen, we have a ruling class, and because of that, our delusions of glamour are so great that we go about as an autocracy with no rules over our behavior, and we just steal continents and call it colonization. We colonize and say, this is our flag and we own it. In a closed anocracy, competitors are drawn from the elite. In an open anocracy, others compete. The number of anocratic regimes has steadily increased over time, when the most notable jump occurring after the end of the Cold War. During the period of 1989 to 2013, the number of anocracies increased from 30 to 53. These are all states of transition. Our process is that we are in states of transition quite often. And here we are in understanding democracy. Now, most people, when you think of democracy, people go, well, that means that we have the right to vote, and each person's vote counts. That is true. That is true. And we do not have that yet. We have electoral votes which take away the rights from every person who's voting to be a delusionary vote. It's not a real vote. It's simply not an actual vote. The electoral vote is the outcome, and that's what Trump realized, that he could actually turn all the votes away from every living person who voted and throw them out, and only count on the electoral votes and be able to bring in fake electoral voters in order to change the vote, and all of a sudden Trump remains elected. So, but in a democracy, which is where we're heading, folks, government by the people especially, rule the majority. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections. A political unit that has a democratic government. The principles and policies of the Democratic Party in the U.S., from Emancipation Republican to New Deal democracy. the common people especially, when constituting the source of political authority and the absence of hereditary or arbitrary class distinctions or privileges. Basically what this means is that our chakras and our rays are in proper alignment. And that's the outcome, is democracy. We have proper mind, we have proper understanding of each person's right, and we exercise that right and in order to create a more perfect union. Yeah, and that is the process of democracy, and it only happens through healthy chakras. And then there's this constant process of transition. Transition is an interval between two regimes. Many political systems enter a transition because their old regime and their rules and procedures and institutions has become untenable. And they remain in that transition because no new regime succeeds in becoming the consolidated new regime. So basically, this is all about the healing of the nations. If you understand what I'm trying to imply here, is that we have controlled influence of energies that allow us characteristics in our behavior. That through those characteristics we have compassion, empathy, understanding, higher intuition, direction, guidance, which is led by God, and order that allows us to see things with discernment and discrimination. All this comes from healthy chakras. Healthy chakras, yeah? And those emanations come out of us as relationships of little children, as grown-ups, as we evolve, as we incarnate. Every time we disincarnate, we then reincarnate, but in every incarnation it depends on how much did we facilitate our saintlyhood while we were incarnated, yeah? Like during this life, how much time is spent in making sure that your life is truly in service, yeah? So one of the things that goes on in the process of my work is to help people by the pujas that I put out, by the tools that I put out, by the teachings that I put out, by the monastery that I put up, by the support of the masters inside of Tibetan Buddhism and helping them to heal and reestablish their loss of being kicked out of Tibet and being able to try and restore their previous lives of building temples and helping young new incarnates to become saints and spend their life working toward virtues and developing their holy qualities of divinity. Yeah. So that's what I do. That's what I always do. In all my previous lives, I've done that. So a lot of my major work is to facilitate these tukus in the world and to bring them into the light that they deserve, that they have from previous lives. So it's a difficult thing. It's a process of not just teaching, but it's a process of bringing the tools in and doing transmission. So on a day-to-day basis, my work is in a state of transmission to where I'm transmitting out at the what you might think of at the highest level of an initiate. There are masters, and then there are extreme logoic masters, very highly evolved logoic masters, and there are masters that are second and third degree initiates that are soulful and have strong transmission abilities of both receiving teachings and information and qualities from the Christ, and then transmitting those energies out without changing the interpretation of understanding and a lack of empathy and a lack of compassion that will grow in a person by their growing teachings that they're developing in their life. So it's difficult for people, on average people, to receive the teachings that it requires for us to heal these chakras and to establish monasteries and establish education and not be stuck in this glamour world of thinking that we have to be these materialistic individuals that seek degrees and seek fame and fortune and all these other things. Where in reality, as a high initiate, which all the saints that are reincarnating, ones of Tibetan Buddhism, ones of previous lives, and whether it be Christianity or whatever level that they work through, first and second initiation, it requires my work of putting these tools together and establishing the pujas, and for these people to get the tools and change their misdirected energetic field in their daily life, which is called a lifestyle, yeah? Changing it, slowly but surely, changing it, yeah? And in doing that, it's altering many levels of future that we will go into that has to do with families that we will create and the families that they would create and the offsprings out of all of that. And if we're not doing this in a holy way, and we're not doing this with divine purpose and understanding under the direction of Guru Rinpoche or Buddha or Jesus the Christ, then we have a very high chance of misinterpretation and a strong field of attraction and direction that has to do with more selfishness and more lack of discernment and more karma that's coming our way that we do not have the ability to work our way through and gain from it, become spiritual masters as we grow through life. More we just get stuck and we get married and we find relationships that are mundane and we live 8, 5, 10 years in that process. We decide to divorce. We get more angry, more disappointed. We start having all kinds of weird vices and glamours contributing to our habits and our illusions and our delusions. And because you're Tukus, because you have strong spiritual abilities in your first and second initiation, but they are gone totally haywire, totally in the wrong direction before you leave your body, so that the people that you've incarnated and the things that you've started are wrong. And they're going to create bad directions for people to move into that will waste their lives. And it'll create generation after generation of people listening to punk rock and delusionary rock and roll and delusionary movies and go into gambling and heavy drugs and alcohol and heavy tattoos and all the things that you get from tukus who do not attain their virtues while incarnated. And instead, they fall out of grace and they become leaders in humanity, whether it be movie stars or actors or people, wayshowers that are really screwing up society and making people think that they should be famous actors with mansions or football players or basketball players with strength and skills rather than spiritual integrity and empathy and compassion, which they should have developed to move through the third initiation and attain the fourth initiation. But we are today at a point to where most of all the tukus cannot get past the second initiation. Even the highest level ones that have attained a fourth and a fifth initiation in previous lives are stuck in the middle of a first and second initiation in this life, and they're around 40 to 50 years old, and they're not getting anywhere. And they're completely stuck in the inertia of not being able to turn anything around and manifest divinity into their world, like build a monastery or incorporate education into their teachings. A lot of times they will fall short from that and become a mundane person and not a practitioner any longer. They do not practice Buddhism whatsoever, and they carry out a mundane life, and they try and just bring themselves to some kind of service to where they're taking care of poor people or helping people of need. but they're not teachers any longer. They do not heal people through their embrace of emanation and power of development that they're attaining every year as they heal the glamours that they might have brought with them from their previous life. And as they come up, they're able to transmute them through understanding and right practice in their relationship as a Buddhist. But this is not what's going on. What is going on is people are falling short, and we're following people like movie stars, and we think homosexuality is a grand idea. LGBT is just exactly where we need to go, and all of this is wrong, really wrong, and we're leading humanity into a lifestyle that is corrupt, impure, perversive, and has nothing to do with divinity. So it's my desire and my hope for all of humanity is to try and do their best to listen to all the recordings that I put out, all the teachings that I put out, get them into your day-to-day life so that you do become a real student, and you do focus on the things that I'm teaching. Every single bit of every single teaching that I give is for that day and for every day. It doesn't matter when you receive it. If you were incorporated into your life, you would find that it exactly applies for what you need for right now. So, like I keep saying, this is not an easy process for people to go through. This is the externalization of Christ, not the externalization of Susie and Joey. Everybody thinks it's all about them and what have they done to not make it happen, or what can they do to make it happen. And in reality, you got to get yourself together and become a student. And you have to get the tools, you have to focus on the pujas, you have to make sure that your day-to-day practice is making yourself ready for when I do sit down and give teachings, that you're there and you're listening and it's live and you're ready to receive those teachings and incorporate them in your life, and then listen to those teachings over and over and over until I give another new live teaching, and keep bringing everything up to the focus that we need to get to. Right now it is so hard for humanity because everybody is falling out of grace on a day-to-day basis, especially tukus. So right now I'm going to recommend that we do a puja, and let me get that one up. We're going to do the invocation of the 7 rays. Okay, so just relax, and I will set this up, and in about 2 minutes into it, we'll begin Om, and I will say, let's start the Om, and you could just do the Om with me. When I do the Om, I do it for about 10 seconds, and we all do it together at the same time, and then I come back around every 10 seconds, and we do the Om again until the end. All right, so just relax, take it easy. Listen to this puja. This is the invocation I do to end wars. So you need to listen to it. You need to understand it. Trust me, you do not understand it. So you need to listen to it every day, over and over and over and over, until you understand it.
To raise the senses
expressed as the soul. I invoke the sense of hearing in the seventh ray. Hearing the word of God, the word of power. I invoke the sense of touch and the first ray as the finger of God. I invoke the sense of sight as the third ray as the eye of God. I invoke the sense of taste as the sixth ray as the desire of all the nations. I invoke the sense of smell as the fourth ray, the beauty of revelation. I invoke the sense of intellect as the fifth ray, as the knowledge of God. I invoke the sense of intuition as the second ray, the understanding of God. I call upon the synthesis of the seven rays to be expressed through your personality. As the first ray of ideas, the mental body, the purpose, your life. Second ray of ideals, the astral body, and your quality. The third ray of idols, your physical body, and your form. The fourth ray of the fourth kingdom, of humanity, in balance.
Okay, take a deep breath.
The fifth ray, the third kingdom, the animals. The sixth ray, the second kingdom, vegetables. The seventh ray, the first kingdom, minerals. I call upon the relationships of all the kingdoms humanity, and express its collective soul. The seventh ray and the fourth ray as the mineral kingdom. The second ray, the fourth ray, and the sixth ray as the vegetable kingdom. The third ray and the sixth ray as the animal kingdom. The fourth ray and the fifth ray as the human kingdom. The fifth ray and the second ray as the egoic soul. The sixth ray and the third ray as planetary lives. The first ray and the seventh ray as solar lives. I call upon the seven rays of all the nations to penetrate the planet Earth, to bring forth the geomantic relationships of the soul, to integrate the egoic ray and the personality ray of each nation, and to express its true expression, to make manifest peace on earth as one living body of God. I call upon India to bring forth its fourth ray personality, to integrate its first ray of soul, to manifest the hidden light. I invoke China to bring forth its third ray personality, to integrate its egoic soul into its first ray, to manifest as the indication of the way. I invoke Germany to bring forth its first ray of personality, to integrate its egoic soul into its fourth ray, to deserve I invoke France and its third ray personality, to integrate its fifth ray, egoic soul, to release the light. I invoke Great Britain and its first ray personality, and its second ray egoic soul, to bring forth its service. I invoke Italy and its fourth ray personality, to integrate its sixth ray soul, to carve the two paths. I invoke the United States and its sixth ray personality, to integrate its second ray soul, to light the way. I invoke Russia its fourth ray soul and serve the lighted way. I invoke space and its seventh ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to disperse the clouds. I invoke Brazil and its second ray personality to integrate its fourth ray soul to hide the sea. I invoke the entity of this planet, the planetary luminous, to incarnate the light and the beingness of this planet. I invoke the expression of the second ray to invoke the personality of the egoic rays of the nation and the personality of the egoic ray of humanity to fuse itself and its light into its healing process. I invoke the esoteric law of solar energy to manifest the cosmic universe of light. Okay, just relax. So I tell you about the chakras, and I tell you about how they can be different, and the reason why we're in war, and the reason why people follow Trump, and the reason why Trump exists, and the reason why you're all going to hell. That is reasoning, that is understanding, and that's being done in compassion with empathy. Yeah. But, you know, it's unnecessary. Truly unnecessary. If you take my words to heart and you shut out everything you've got going on, you know, even if you're married, isolate yourself, become yourself. Don't go, oh, I got to have, you know, this, I got to be different, I got to be a different person. No, you don't have to be a different person. You just need to be a better, kinder, more gentle person. You need to be better toward your wife. You need to be better toward your kids. You need to be better in every way, better. Yeah. And how you get there, you know, it's not like going to happen to you because you choose. This is not witchcraft. This is not paganism. This is about love. Yeah. So here I am. I'm creating pujas and I'm putting out tools and everything. What effect can those have on you? Well, let's take a look at this. Imagine your body is made of water. Majority of your body is made of water. And that if you go to a terrible dam, polluted water, toxic area, you check it under a microscope, and you check it an hour later after prayer and meditation, and you'll find that it goes from this horrible glob of chaos into this crystalline reality geometric form. And that's real. That happens. Compassion, thank you, wisdom, prayer by a Buddhist, and words, just words, heavy metal music, absolutely destructive. I will kill you, absolutely destructive. You fool, absolutely destructive. Yeah? Most things are impure. Most things have imperil in them. Most things, your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, the person you think you're making love to, is filled with imperil, and it's permeated in you, in your temple, because you defiled it. Now, if you were to choose not to do that, and go meditate, go watch my video, you'll turn out looking like this. And if your wife and the asshole situations around you don't change, they remain like that, but you don't. The molecular structure changes. That means your molecular structure changes, and the assholes around you don't. So you better protect yourself, and that's my teaching. My teaching is to protect you, every one of you, individually, not as a group of Christians or a group of Muslims or a group of anything. You got to do this individually. You have to work within the will of God, and you have to be divine. Love. Thank you. I hate you. These are normal sacred things. This is love. Love. Thank you. Yeah? Compassion. Empathy. A pattern of energy that comes out of us that stems from our heart. But if we speak from our solar plex, all you're going to create is chaotic astral illusions. Look at all these astral illusions down here on the bottom. And they've all been reorganized through light and love and sound and intention. That's what I'm performing. That's what I'm providing. Yeah? All of this is natural for all of us. But you can't just listen to the pujas and have an asshole husband and continue having an asshole husband and listen to the pujas. You're not going to hear the pujas. So what's important is the pujas, the tools, the teachings, and Jesus. Those relationships will protect you and change everything around you. And if the people around you, the places, the circumstances, are harboring all these impurities and these polluted, imperiled energetic forms that are radiating out of them at all times, causing you to be deformed, deluded, delusioned, yeah, due to this energy. Yeah, you have to get rid of it. You have to accept the fact that it does exist. You have to accept the fact that you do need Christ. You have to accept the fact that you have to not tolerate things in your life that are not with Christ, because we're in a new world. We have to make a transition. We must establish democracy. We have to eliminate all of these vices and glamours inside of humanity in order for the nature of democracy to be established. And from that point on, every living human being will have a home, they will have food, they will have comfort, they will have education, everything will be right, in order for all the chakras to heal in the right way. Without all this, it is a whole thing. Without all this, this doesn't work. All right? So, thank you very much for attending. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I hope you put it into action and help your friends. Get an etheric weaver, get solar forms, get a pyramid, listen to the pujas, take refuge in me, know that I exist, know that I teach, I'm online every single day, know that I come out to teach in the cities and in the states all around the world. You know, find out. Contact Shambhala and find out my schedule and be there. Make it your absolute necessity to be in my class physically. And you're going to have to change a lot of your shit to get into my class, because I want to let a lot of people in my class. The majority of people, I'm talking only about 2 to 3% of the whole human race, has the qualifications to enter a class with me. So get your shit together now, so that in the future, you would be able to get into that class.